Welcome back to another Album Yapcast. This week we are talking about just encouraging people to join music and why we think that's a general good idea. So let's get right into it.
If you don't play music in some capacity, I would just suggest that you do. Now, I kind of say it dry like that just because we have talked before about some of the benefits of playing music, but I think it's just a fun experience that if you've never done it, you should try it at least once, and give it a somewhat decent shot. You don't have to go all in, but I'd say if you're trying to just mark things off the bucket list, it's definitely a good one to get to sooner than later.
I think it's really fun that we're doing this topic because I do work for a music retailer. It's I think decently well known by this point on the channel. And so this is one of those things that's just kind of naturally taught in our line of work. You know, it's part of our mission statement for the company is to encourage participation in music. And I agree wholeheartedly with it. I think, one, who cares about the sales aspect of it, right? I'm going to make that clear now. I think music is just so vibrant of a community. It's so open, I suppose. And there's so many sects that you can always find friends somewhere that are really into what you're doing. I mean, working on the retail side for a little bit that I did there, it was just amazing how many people I would see come in that had so many different views on what they were playing and what they wanted to play. The amount of people that would come in and they're like, hey, I really like Nirvana, and I want to get into guitar. Can you help me? And I'm like, yeah, that's easy. I can do that. Or you'd have a couple guys that come in, they're like, I've been playing guitar for 12 years. I'm a big Yngwie fan. What do you got? And there's stuff like that. Or just different people that were making noise music, which at the time, I had no idea what it was, but I was more than happy to set them up with some pedals that made noise. And that was just something that I feel was kind of eye-opening, was just the amount of different sects of music that are all so much using the same stuff that it made it really easy when I had friends who were like, well, I like listening to music. I'm like, well, what do you want to play? I certainly know everything at this point that makes a sound. We can figure you something out. And I don't think I've ever had a friend that says, oh, I'm interested in music, that I haven't been able to talk into, picking up a guitar at least once or twice and having a good time.
Yeah, exactly. I think music is one of those things where, even if you really don't know what you're doing, if you're with the right group of people and, the people are good, I think that's very important, then it's going to be a good time no matter what. I mean, we've both had personal experiences of, bringing people into jam, friends of ours. And even if they're not, the most diligent about playing music, that moment is always it's priceless.
Mm-hmm.
Just being able to jam out with a couple friends and it doesn't have to be anything.
Mm-hmm.
It's more so just being present in the moment and having a good time. And I think especially now, in the age of the internet, a lot of people, including myself, have a problem with being present. We're always thinking about, whatever's going on in the world, and, oh, I got to go to work tomorrow, and, oh God, am I going to make rent this month? All that stuff, and it's really nice to have a brief, but a respite from that nonetheless, which in this case takes the form of playing music, because one thing about music, of course, is that it engages all the senses. Most all of them, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
And so it pulls you out of whatever's going on up here and makes you focus on this or this, depending on what you're doing. But it's something that, as someone who's played music for well over 10 years now, I wouldn't give it up for the world.
Mm-hmm.
And every time I play music, or every time I have even a good practice session, I'm I wish that I could give this to other people.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I wish that everybody could feel that that same release, or like that same satisfaction, even if like I come out of like a practice session, or like we come out of a jam and I'm like, oh, I sounded like crap the whole time. It was still a great time, regardless. It never feels like I never feel like the time I spent playing my instrument was not worth it. It always feels like it's worth it. It always feels worthwhile, and it always feels like I'm working toward a greater goal. And I think especially for me, music has been something that's motivated me to further myself in my life outside of music. It's always been like, oh, well, I want to be able to do this, and this with music, but you know, I don't have the means to do that right now. How can I, you know, structure my life in a way that is conducive to me meeting my musical goals? Now, not everybody is maybe not everybody wants to pursue music in that fashion, you know, but which for me, of course, it's a lifelong passion, and I know it is for you too, and many of our viewers as well. But that's just the thing too, is that it looks different for everybody. It's so individual. And I think in a world, in a society, where everything tends to be so contrived, music is one of those things that is, it like peeks through all of that as something that's just so genuine, you know, when you want it to be. Of course, a lot of times music itself is contrived as well, but no matter what, it's always coming from, you know, some place of, how do I say this? Genuineness, or there's another word for that, but I can't think of it right now.
Kind of just to peek back a little in what you said a little earlier on, just bringing in friends for like a jam session or something. We have two wonderful examples of that, even just in our crew, with like Carson and Connor. Those are two guys that were into music before we started doing this whole thing. You know, Connor was a producer and Carson was a sax player back in high school, and he was more so on the like tinkering side. He liked speakers and stuff like that, you know. He did speaker build. Go check that out. Those are guys that eventually, just through talking to them, they were like interested in playing something else. I'm like, well, shit, let's get you set up and let's go. Let's do it. Let's run. So for a while there, Carson was taking guitar lessons with me, and Connor was taking bass lessons. And then we finally got Connor to sit in with us for a jam. And he was a little apprehensive to play out and, you know, just mess up and make mistakes, but that's, you know, part of the journey. And when we finally got him to do Stand By Me, and play it out, because we do a certain structure where it's, if you start the song, you end the song. And most of the time, because I'm the guitar player, I start and end the songs, but that's a bass driven song, and we made Connor start it and end it, and it was very fun, and it was very awesome. And we were sitting there, we got to get him back on the next session, you know. And he wouldn't have probably done that, at least as quickly as he did, had he not had friends that were encouraging him and pushing him so hard. And, you know, I have a coworker I work with that wanted to get into bass, and he was like, you know, I just don't know what I'm looking at. I don't know what's a good one. You know, I don't want to have to be the guy that buys 4. And I was like, hey, if you buy a bass, I'll show you which ones. If you're looking at them, if you want, we'll pick one out that looks cool that we sell, and we'll get you set up. I'll get you with lessons whenever you're ready. And, you know, it's been a couple years he's had that bass, and he keeps coming up to me because, you know, very unfortunately life got in the way at the exact same time. He's like, hey, I still want to learn bass. I swear, I'm still going to do it. I'm like, yeah, man, of course. And sometimes that's what it comes down to. I've got buddies that bought guitars that they hang on their wall until, you know, I just get a text out of the blue 6 months later. It's like, hey, I'm ready for lessons now or something. And, you know, my girlfriend's, she was given a guitar, and every once in a while she'll just get in the mood. It's like, hey, could you show me a thing or two? And, you know, these are people that are asking me to spare a moment to help them learn a thing or two. And I've got no problems, no qualms doing that, because I want them to continue on. It's, you know, something that I have very unfortunately sunk thousands of dollars into, and could probably own a house if I didn't own as much music gear if I have. But it's just something I love, and I love spreading that joy around. This is probably going to come off more bragging than humble, but I have given away a bunch of guitars to people that just are like, oh, I really want to get into guitar and I can't afford it. I end up with a bunch of cool $50 guitars because people would bring things in that weren't maybe worth anything, but I was like, that's cool, and they're like, oh, I just want to part ways with it, and I'm like, I'll give you $50 for it or something. It's not, don't get me wrong, I'm not screwing anyone over.
Right.
It's the $50 guitar, I'm giving it $50 for. It's just something we wouldn't sell at the store because it's a cheap guitar. And I'll get those and I'll turn them around and give them to people or something like that. Or I think traded them for I've traded guitars for candy bars and stuff before.
Right.
And I'm like, well, here, don't feel like you're screwing me over. Go give me a king size Hershey bar and we'll call it even, And it's just because I would rather continue this journey for a lot of people, or at least get them started, than have something so trivial as money be a factor, right? Mm-hmm. And I understand, I'm not giving away $3,000 Les Pauls. If I had the money, if I had the option, I'd make sure every school in America had a good music program, a good setup for it. But very unfortunately, I ain't that rich.
Right.
I think music is fundamental in growth, like we mentioned in our last recorded session. It's very fundamental in the growth of being a human being, and I want everyone to grow. I think everyone could use a little growth. We're all seedlings that need some water, and who am I to not water the flowers that are sitting right in front of me? So I think that it's really sucky how high the ceiling is to get in, right? Because if you buy a Jason Aldean guitar from Walmart or whoever, whichever country star's doing it these days, it's a cheaper guitar. It's not going to sound good. It's going to discourage someone from joining music, and it's very unfortunate because that's a high price tag. But there are things around that price that are pretty solid that you can get someone into. It's just typically those are more geared towards a younger musician. We have 3/4 and half scale, 7/8 scale that typically are a little cheaper because they're a little smaller, but they're still mighty fine guitars. I mean, GS Minis out of Taylor are a very popular acoustic for people that travel a lot, and that's a $500 3/4 or maybe 7/8 scale, I can't remember. And then there's the baby Taylors, which are half scale acoustics that are $300, but those are good quality, good builds. Yamaha's got a lot of cheaper options that I always point people towards if they're looking acoustic, and then obviously Squier has their nice cheaper options. It's a joke in the guitar community, but a black Squier Strat is what everyone starts on. I unfortunately, or I guess fortunately for myself, did not start on that. I wanted a guitar with humbuckers first because I knew that was the sound I wanted. I'd been around music my entire life. It was just by the time I finally got into guitar playing, which was after I was already a bass player, I was like, I want something that sounds like Metallica. That's the sound I like playing on bass. I want something with some grit and output. So I got a little Dean LP style guitar with humbuckers. And so I will always just kind of push people to get whatever they can afford that's decent. I will always shy people away from getting those Lynx guitars or Licks, whatever brand it is, on Amazon. There's a few different ones. They're fine enough. I think it's really something that if you're gonna spend $100 on that, save up the extra $100 and get the Squier version or something. But price point is a huge reason why a lot of people don't start in music, and I kind of think that's stupid too, to a degree, because you can get into music without instruments. You can sing in your car. That costs you $0. Well, your car costs you money, but you can sing on the side of the street. That costs you $0. You can pat your legs to the beat. That's real free. And even, there's always like the first kind of step for, I think it's a lot easier for probably drummers to get in on a cheaper side with a practice pad and some sticks. Very unfortunately for guitar, there really isn't that kind of cheap alternative. You kind of just have to go all the way in. But I've known a lot of people that were like, I want to play electric guitar, but I don't know how into it I want to get. So I'd always recommend, well, hey, get a cheaper electric and a headphone amp. So that way you're only out, $300 instead of, $200 for this amp that's going to be probably too loud for your parents and stuff like that. And if you decide you like it, great. Now you've got a perfect practicing headphone amp and a guitar, and then you can go add on to whatever. And if you don't like it, well, you're only going to be out about 50% of what you're in for each of those items. And very unfortunately, those cheaper practice amps tend to take a larger dive than those like $100 Mustang micros.
Yeah.
I say a Fender Frontman 15 is about $100 retail, and they go for about 40 used, versus a Fender Mustang micro is about 100 retail, sells for about 60 used.
Yeah.
So I always kind of recommend, don't get the option that everyone's kind of like leading you towards, but get the option that you think is best if you're maybe a little weary and stuff like that.
Yeah, for sure. I think as a drummer, like for me, the first couple years of getting into it was just patting on my legs, just listening to songs, and like, because I was probably in middle school at the time, and I was actually, and so I would just like pat on my legs while I was waiting for the bus, on the bus, in class, probably when I shouldn't, but I always get people who are like, stop drumming on your books or whatever, and it's like, for me, I like, especially at like drummers will really resonate with this, but people always try to make you feel like a nuisance. But my advice to that would just say, fuck them and just keep going, because like you just can't let anybody dim your spark, and I know that sounds cheesy, but at the same time, it's like, there's no need to diminish yourself for the comfort of others to a degree. Now what you were saying about the like the ceiling of getting into music is really interesting, because the curve is very different depending on the instrument that you pursue.
Oh, for sure.
Like with guitar, it is pretty easy to get in at like at least with like an electric guitar, like a pretty legit setup for pretty cheap. Now for drummers, aside from the practice pad, like if you're looking to get into like an acoustic or an electric kit, that's a lot more money than most people have to shell out, unless you're like a violin player or like a cello player. Like if you're thinking traditional, like kind of like rock band setting, kind of diaspora.
I think a lot of that also comes down to just the sheer amount of drummers will buy less total drums than guitar players will buy less total guitars.
That's true.
You know what I mean? Drummers will tend to buy 1 to 4 kits, I think, and it's very dependent on how much money you just have to be able to do that.
And space.
And then, yeah, exactly, and space to store it. And then they'll get a lot of cymbals. Like a metric crap ton of cymbals. Most every guitar player I know that's like a guitar player has 10 different guitars that all do the exact same thing.
Yep.
And they won't lie to you about it. They're like, I just thought it looked cool and I wanted it. And then, they've got like 4 or 5 different ones that do actual different things. And it's, just to tell people, like at some point in my career, I've had 21 guitars in my collection at one time. They're like, what the heck? And I don't know how many guitars I've had total. I don't want to look. I don't want to think about the models. It's too many. But I tend to just cycle through all that stuff. And I feel like drummers get a kit and they're like, I love this kit.
Yeah.
And then they chase another sound and then they go get that other kit. Or a lot of the times they'll have one kit and a bunch of snare drums.
Yeah.
Something like that where they'll have their just trade out pieces.
Yeah, I think depending on like for drummers, like what genres you end up playing, you might have a couple different sets of shells. Like, you know, for now, I mean, I have a jazz kit, and I kind of, you know, you can get a few different sounds out of it depending on like what heads you put on, and of course how you play, things like that. But of course, a lot of the sound is going to come from the drums themselves, like the size, the wood, of course. But most of it comes down to like dimensions and the heads. Because you can make virtually any set of shells sound good with proper heads and tuning. But of course, that sound is going to be massively different depending on, you know, the shells.
Oh, yeah.
And so I think for some guys, they like to have the variety. Some people also just like to have a lot of pieces on their kit, which is really great if you're drumming at home, but it's horrible if you're playing out. There's that curve that a lot of people tend to go through, or drummers, I mean, of playing out where they're like, oh, I want to bring, you know, this, and this because I like it. But it's like over time, you know, when you're loading in and loading out after so long, it's like, maybe I don't need the side snare. Maybe I don't need that extra effect symbol, you know? And so, you know, you tend to kind of thin the herd a little bit, but that's also part of finding your sound, and that's part of a journey in and of itself. But you did kind of call me out there with the cymbal addiction. I'm not like Zach Groove's bad. That man has more cymbals than anybody I've ever seen. But
everybody's got an addiction to certain things. I mean, you've been in my basement. I have just a lot of random gear. There's just stuff.
Yeah.
I have various different microphones I've acquired, bunch of different pedals, amps, guitars, basses. I own a lot of stuff that I like to use because it's a different sound, or things have come along at different parts of my musical career where I maybe needed this or wanted this. And like, I mean, a lot of the gear I have is just, it was a deal that was too good to pass up on. And it was like, well, you're stupid if you don't buy that. It's like, I've got a Spider, the generic Spider 2 that everyone has, the 50-watt combo. But I got it for like $70-$80.
Nice.
And it was like, okay, that's a no-brainer. Buy that. And I got a Fender G-Deck. It's a 30 amp for like $100. And it's like, that's a really good amp with 99 different models in it and backing tracks for practicing. So I got that, and I have a bunch of different practice amps from when I was starting out that I've given like half of them away. I've given away like 6 different practice amps. Because I'm like, I keep getting these for $50 and I don't want it, but it was $50. And I've got, I think 4, no, I'm up to 5 just professional guitar heads. Why? I play one. I play the 6505. And before that, and mostly for at home now, just because I'm terrified to take it out anymore, is the 66 Bassman. That lives in my basement, but I got a really good deal on it. It's one of my favorite amps. It's probably my number 2 right behind the 6505 that I had to get. And I couldn't pass up on any of these deals. So sometimes you just see something, you're like, I gotta have it.
Yeah, and that's another thing, especially for people getting into music. I would always suggest buying used where you can. With certain things, you probably shouldn't buy used. Like, I wouldn't buy used drum heads.
Microphones. Buy new microphones.
That's a
sanitization thing. That's a clean thing. Most microphones are also, you're not going to get too crazy of a good deal used. Yeah. You're talking $10 to $30 on most things.
Yeah.
So at that point, I would pay the $30 to not have someone else's spit near my mouth.
However, I would not buy a new drum kit, especially because with drums, it takes some time for the actual wood to set, and like you have to play it for a while in order to get that to set. And you know, you can get one that, you know, somebody's already done that for you. Not only that, but sorry, go ahead.
I would say the only time I'll disagree with that is there are certain like lines that you'll want to custom order for colorways. Like there's Mapex's My Identity line. You can get a used one. every time I see a used one of those, it is just the worst color scheme I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, you can standardize, those are going to sound the same. So if you play one and you like it, go order the color you want.
Yeah.
Don't get the ice blue with black hardware because it's in the drum shop, when it was $200 off of retail. That's the other thing. I think my big argument against used on almost anything is if it's not a good enough deal to not put the hours of playtime into it yourself, it's not worth it. Any used guitar I own is because it was half off of retail or more and didn't have much playtime in it. I don't buy a bunch of super used beat up stuff, or I'll buy, unless it's vintage, right? Like, you're not buying a pristine 66 Fender Bassman. It's just not for a feasible amount of money.
Yeah. And I would say to that also, like, for drummers, buying used cymbals is usually the way to go.
Oh yeah.
Just because, well, especially now, because tariffs and like cymbal prices have gone through the roof. They're pretty insane right now.
I mean, most people also have to wait a year or two to get their cymbals in if you're ordering non-standards, right?
Right.
Like you can go to every music store and pick it up off the shelf.
Exactly. And you'd be surprised at some of the deals that you can find if you look in the right places. I'm very fortunate to live near a really nice drum shop. And so I'll go there and I'll browse through their cymbals because I'm like a kid in a candy store there, I just like doing that. And I've been able to find some pretty decent deals on like vintage cymbals. Mm-hmm. And I got my hi-hats that way, my Zildjians, and they're just like real nice, like jazz hi-hats, real light. And I played them. That's another thing. You got to play cymbals before you buy them. You can't trust, even listening through a good pair of headphones. Like, you have to play it in person to see how it sounds in the room and see if that's the sound that you want. Mm-hmm. And I think it's the same thing for guitars as well.
Guitar, I think it's all a feel thing. Sound doesn't electric wise, you can change the pickups to be whatever you want. But if you hate how that guitar feels, there's not a single thing you can do without like ruining the integrity of a warranty. It's best to move on from that piece if you don't like it, and it's going to take you more hours to set it up to be playable than you think you'll play it.
Yeah. I guess going back to what we were talking about originally in terms of like getting your friends into music or getting into music in general. I think if it's something that you're really thinking about doing, or it's something that you've wanted to do for, if you're a little bit older, say like even if you're in like your mid-20s and you're like, oh, I was a kid and I saw some person playing at a bar one time and I ever since then I really wanted to play music and I just never got around to it. I'd say, like, at the very least, try and find, you can study yourself or try and find a teacher. Like, take like 1 to 2 lessons, see if it's something that you really like, and if you do, go for it. But if not, then maybe see like about a different instrument or trying something else out, because I think genuinely there is an instrument for everybody. There is going to be something in music that you like doing, even if you're not quote unquote musically inclined, which I think that's kind of a loaded term. I think very few people are actually musically inclined. It's more of like a motivation thing, of like, if you really like doing it, you're more likely to actually dedicate genuine like focus to it. And that is what makes you better. That's what makes you progress more so than the like purported just like talent, because talent of course is not like a gift that you're given from birth.
I say talent is skill nurtured over time through practice.
Yeah, some people have inclination for like finger coordination, for example.
So yeah, some people take to everything easier. That's life,
Yeah,
there's some medicines react better in your body than other medicines.
Exactly.
It's just a natural way of things. Sometimes some things are better, or some people are better than you naturally. but there is an infinitely high ceiling for literally everyone.
Yeah.
And thus, I think, like we've kind of talked about before, comparison is no use in music. There's no use in comparing because everyone's different and everyone's on their own journey. Frankly, I think we're all actually just trying to help each other out in our journeys instead of, like, I've never seen musicians, that's not true. I guess most musicians I don't think are the, hey, you should stop doing what you're doing and give up. They're the, hey, keep doing it. I like what you're doing. You like what you're doing? Cool. That's cool with me, man.
Yeah.
So if you've made it this far, hit the like and subscribe buttons, and we need you to head down to the comments and leave any suggestions for albums, EPs, and songs you want us to check out. Also, if you have any ideas you want us to yap about, go ahead and leave that for us. And we will see you in the next one.